Docherty. Thank you. Hey everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Devon. I'm an animal rights activist and an assistant with Earthling Ed as well. And today I'd like to talk about 5 next steps towards animal liberation, so basically areas that I think we as a movement need to pay particular importance to in the immediate future. So it's going to be like a very big picture overview of the movement as a whole. And before I begin, I'd also like to say that I acknowledge not everyone in the room is going to agree with everything that I have to say, but that's okay. In fact, that's actually kind of the whole point, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. So I won't lie, I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed with the world at the minute. And I was thinking, what do I need? And the answer was that I need direction and I need hope. So I'm hoping to give a little bit of that to you today. Okay, real quick overview of the last 5 years. The good bits. The plant-based boom. So 2020 was the first ever year that every one of the top 10 UK supermarkets had its own vegan range, and every top 10 UK restaurant had a plant-based offering. Cell-cultivated proteins, controversial topic, I know, but I'm cautiously optimistic about its potential to help liberate animals more quickly. And key milestones here are Singapore becoming the first country in the world to approve the sale of cultivated meat for human consumption in 2020, and this year the UK became the first country in the world to sell cultivated pet food, so I think that's really cool. Institutions moved to plant-based policies, so in 2022 we've seen plant-based meals become the default in all of New York City's public hospitals. And we're also seeing organisations and businesses make their catering more or fully plant-based, like the ARCS did in 2023. And in the last 4 years, at least 7 councils in the UK and 23 universities across Europe have switched to 100% plant-based catering. And Denmark has also introduced the world's first national action plan to make their food system more plant-based. Some animal protection laws, so key ones here include South Korea outlawing the dog meat trade, Scotland cracking down on fox hunting, leading to now over 50% of fox hunting groups in Scotland disbanding, and so that was really amazing. And Mexico banning the captive breeding and use of marine mammals for entertainment. And finally, mainstream media coverage of investigations, leading not only to increased public awareness of the suffering that goes on in farms, but Animal Justice Project have managed to wipe millions off of Cranswick, one of the biggest meat producers, millions off of their market value with their pig farm investigations. And Joey Carbstrong's investigations have single-handedly shut down 2 slaughterhouses and counting. All right, the not so good bits. Carnivore culture, lots of morons online muddying the conversation about animals, health and environment, and deluding people into thinking they need to eat more meat and drink raw milk for some reason. Misinformation that's detrimental to our cause is being consumed all the time on all the social media platforms, and we have to fight back against this. Industry pushback, so marketing campaigns, lobbying, and protest by animal agribusiness is one of our biggest threats. And the funding gap, so less than 0.1% of global philanthropy, I really struggle with that word, I really do. But basically of global funding towards charitable causes, shall we say, goes to farmed animals, so we really need more funding. And internal conflict. Infighting steals activists time and energy that we cannot afford to lose. Yeah, boo and fight. Okay, what now? So as Tom covered, but just to go back over it, I really do think growing our grassroots is the most important thing that we can do right now. So yeah, 30 years ago, there were around 300 decentralised local animal rights groups fighting for animal freedom in the UK, and they went on to achieve some of our biggest victories to date. But after a government crackdown in the early 2000s, we have those kind of networks disappeared, And we have seen like a growth in that time of more like professionalised organisations and NGOs and such, but a strong grassroots presence remains a missing key ingredient in this movement's success. So again, like Tom covered a lot of this, but yeah, the grassroots are made up of people using their own free time to fight for change. They organise within their communities, choosing the issues, campaigns and tactics that matter most to them. And why should we care about the grassroots? Why are they important? Well, the reach, a greater local participation means constant, widespread attention on the problem. Relevance, a movement driven by the community holds greater moral authority within that community and credibility. And resilience, the grassroots reduce dependence on any single leader, funder or approach, so they can cut through bureaucracy and move fast and adapt. So think about the grassroots as like the base of the pyramid. And how? Yeah, join local and national protests, marches, groups and campaigns. Get some friends together, pick a target, make a plan and go. Like, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Look to history, to inspiration, look to other social justice movements for inspiration, see what they achieved and how they achieved it, and just copy that and go for it. And yeah, most importantly, of course, never ever give up. You can pivot, adapt, struggle, win, lose, and even take breaks, but never ever give up, because our enemies might have more money, more power, more people, but as long as we are more persistent than them, we will win, and we will free animals. And then, of course, again, in terms of setting up local groups, Project Phoenix and Animal Freedom Network have a lot of resources there, so do check them out. So our activist group in Scotland, and if you are here and you are Scotland based and you're not a part of that, do come and like speak to one of us, and we'll get you added to the WhatsApp group chat. We'll probably put a QR code up at some point. But so our activist group in Scotland, we do mainly focus on vegan outreach, and I think that's, you know, absolutely so important. But I think it's about time we could also diversify our approach and have some more specific targets and aims. So here's some, spoiler. Here's some Scotland-specific examples that we could form campaigns around. So there's the Bird of Prey Street Zoo that goes up and down the country. The Happy Lamb Hot Pot in Edinburgh, this is a real, they need to know that they can't get away with this sort of vile humane washing in our country, so really want to target them. I mean, the Happy Lamb Hot Pot. Ayr Racecourse, that hosts the Scottish Grand National every year, where many horses die. Deep Sea World in North Queensferry, that confines fishes, sharks, rays and snakes to tanks for entertainment. And Charles River Labs in Edinburgh, who receives shipments of monkeys and other animals to test on. And yeah, this is a quote from Leila Kassam, who's one of the co-founders of Project Phoenix, along with Tom, and she said that, "Dare to believe that we are the ones we've been waiting for." Okay, yeah. More momentum for institutional campaigns. So that's obviously one focused on changing the policies, practices, structures of institutions, like governments, businesses, corporations, schools and universities and stuff like that. And when we have a strong grassroots, we can use them to kind of drive forward these sorts of campaigns. And just to be clear, I see both individual and institutional change like as equally important. But the point is that those focus mainly on individual change. They could amplify their impact by getting involved in some more institutional campaigns as well. So it's just something to think about. And there's a few reasons why I think this could be beneficial. Institutional decisions affect many people and animals at once. So like in the case of the New York City public hospitals example I was speaking about, where they made their catering plant-based by default, that's thousands of meals per day now demanding plant-based over animal-based products, and thousands of people per day exposed to delicious, nourishing plant-based food that probably wouldn't have chosen it otherwise. The patient satisfaction rate for these meals was over 90%, and now these people will hopefully be like more receptive when they come across vegan messaging and outreach. Social norms, institution-shaped culture, normalising and mainstreaming non-animal choices. Institutional changes often make media headlines, and when one changes, it can spark a chain reaction. So a great example here is that when one fashion brand or fashion week started to go fur and feather free, they literally all started to announce that they were going fur and feather free. And so it sets a higher standard that pressures others to follow or get singled out. And finally, morale. When campaign goals are clear and attainable, they boost morale and build momentum across the movement. And this is just like some examples of some more institutional campaigns. There was the successful campaign to end the plant milk surcharge at Starbucks. Of course, plant-based councils, plant-based universities, greener by default. And I've put the National Trust here because their members recently passed a motion to make 50% of their cafe menus plant-based. So have a think about what organisations you could approach with this sort of initiative. It could be somewhere you work, somewhere you volunteer, somewhere you just visit. And also remember, it's not just plant-based campaigns that we can level at institutions. We can campaign against specific products, practices, and businesses, as I was talking about earlier, you know, factory farms, zoos, horse racing, testing facilities. These can all have institutional results as well. Coalition building. I think we're at a point where the animal rights movement, at least part of our movement, needs to reach out and start forming kind of strategic alliances beyond our own community and mobilising more of the public in the fight for animal freedom. So this is an example of the kind of people that we need to actively kind of build and maintain good relationships with. It would be really beneficial. Farmers, journalists and CEOs, other pro-animal people and groups that might not necessarily be vegan, but pro-animal. Lawyers and lawmakers and business people, MPs, politicians, councillors, and local residents as well. So I want to give a quick few examples of groups who are actively working on coalition building. The Coalition Against Factory Farming is a new initiative by Animal Rising, and their main goal is to support and inspire local residents to object to factory farming applications in their area as a crucial first step towards ending all animal farming. This is Jan. She's a local resident in Methwold in Norfolk, where Cranswick wanted to build the UK's largest mega farm that would confine around 900,000 chickens and pigs at any one time. Usually planning applications like this, they just sail through without much resistance. But when local residents caught wind of the plan and teamed up with animal rights activists, fate was rewritten. With support from Animal Rising campaigners, Jan spearheaded the local fight against Cranswick. She helped to raise funds, helped to hire lawyers and experts to submit evidence. She spoke with the press and got the story covered nationally. She rallied the local community to submit their own objections, and in total, over 12,000 objections were lodged, and a petition against the farm was signed by 42,000 people. Because of this, the application was refused. Thanks, and I mean, like, really kind of let that sink in for a minute. The biggest mega farm in the UK was stopped in its tracks because ordinary people came together, exercised their collective power and just said no. So suddenly it's not vegans versus everybody else, it's everybody against factory farming. And as I said, this is just a first step to get people on board with ending all animal farming. That I really, really believe it's going to be effective. And look, from what I know, Jan isn't vegan yet, but on her way there. And she's now working to change planning application policy so that the default is to refuse harmful facilities like factory farms. And in my opinion, this is how we will win. Not from like an overnight moral revolution, but from fighting persistent, determined battles that slowly change the system and in the process, the individuals within it. So the point is, if we only work with other vegans, we really risk limiting the positive impact we can have for animals and how fast we can actually liberate them. On the flip side, we can also work with farmers rather than against them to bring about change, which is what groups like Stock Free Farming, Vegan Support the Farmers, and Transformation are doing. So I'm not saying like, oh, we need to be nicey to everyone. I'm trying to say that there's a use for both the good cop, bad cop approach or the carrot and the stick approach, depending on the situation and who you're working with and what your goals are. So I really think we need all of this. And let me remind you of what can happen when we do build these sorts of alliances. I don't know if you can read that, but this is how Jacob Jensen, the right-wing farming minister of the Liberal Party of Denmark, kicked off the Danish National Action Plan by saying plant-based foods are the future. The government of Denmark, one of the largest meat-producing countries in the world, now collectively agree that plant-based is the future. And how were they able to achieve that? Well, here's a quote from the head of the Vegetarian Society of Denmark, who were really one of the key players in these negotiations. He said, one of the key reasons was talking about what we want more of instead of talking about what we want less of. That's how we got broader support. People had to feel welcome, even when they had not just differing opinions, but maybe even different versions of the truth. That was a tricky but important balance, but that's how you secure the continued participation of people. Okay, fight the system, not each other. The saying goes that the biggest threat to the movement is the movement itself, and I do think there's some truth in that. Infighting is leading to major burnout and the weakening of our networks and local groups. Here's some quick stats by We the Free. They found that 89% of activists have witnessed infighting in their local community. 43% are personally aware of an activism team or organisation in their local area that's shut down because of infighting. And 64% of activists personally know at least one activist who has left the movement because of infighting. The top 3 types of conflict ranked by activists were different animal rights strategies, personal disagreements, and views on intersectionality. And ranked by organisations were communication issues, discrimination, and different animal rights strategies as well. Okay, so just as a reminder, the enemy is not intersectionals, non-intersectionals, vegans who support welfare improvement, vegans who don't support welfare improvement. You get the point? And ordinary people, I don't think they're the enemy either. The enemy is the industry's culture, mindsets, laws and practices that exploit and oppress non-human animals. And just to clarify, I'm not saying that we shouldn't ever disagree or have productive disagreement or critique when you genuinely believe someone else's approach to be harmful to animals or people. But we should always treat each other as comrades, not competition. We have to have an inherent recognition that we're all operating with different theories of change, and we always will. So guard your energy closely and try to direct it where it has the most positive impact, which is rarely ever arguing with other animal freedom advocates. Animals don't care how they're liberated, they just want liberation. So have the humility to acknowledge that your way isn't the only way, and let go of the need to always be right. I think having a basic understanding of social movement ecology could help us all to avoid unnecessary division and recognise the value in different approaches. So thinking about the animal rights movement as a whole, we're all working towards the same goal, but we all have different theories of change, different ways of going about it. And we also reach different sections of society as well. So for example, there's people focusing on personal transformation, like Anonymous for the Voiceless, We the Free, Earthling Ed, or you, every time you talk to a friend or family member about veganism. And then there's people working on changing dominant institutions through Inside Game, pushing for change from inside the regular kind of political channels and so forth. So politicians like Cory Booker in the USA, who's a vegan, the Animal Justice Party in Australia, as well as groups who are engaged in lobbying like the Vegan Society and Pro-Veg. Then there's those using Outside Game, applying pressure from the outside, maybe using pressure tactics, protest or direct action, so groups like Animal Rising, Hunt Saboteurs, Direct Action Everywhere, and the Animal Liberation Front. Then there's people working on creating alternatives like vegan brands and businesses, cellular and lab-grown proteins, veganic farming practitioners, and animal sanctuaries as well. And even within these categories, people are not going to always agree on the best framing or approach, but that's kind of the point. So social movement ecology reminds us that no one strategy can do everything. It's the combination of efforts across different fronts that makes a movement powerful. And the social justice movements in history that made progress, they did so by operating from within a comparable ecosystem, whether consciously or not. So there really is a place for everyone in this movement, however you want to take action. And I personally dabble a little bit in all of these, but it is also good to find your niche and let others find theirs. And I wanted to quickly read this poem. I think it was Ben Mazea, you shared this on your story, and I really loved it. I think it's just a reminder to be kind to yourself, kind to other people, because the work we do is emotionally exhausting and unrelenting. But no matter what happens, we need to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep going. So it's called The Activist by Food Without Faces poet. The Activist. We are not perfect, so showing up imperfectly to every occasion is all we have. Imperfect words for imperfect situations, imperfect actions for imperfect plans, imperfect steps towards imperfect paths. Still, we arrive. We offer what we can carry, a cracked cup of courage, a thin shred of hope, a fragile thread of faith. We learn as we go, we mend as we move, we bless what breaks by being there for it. If grace is real, it meets us in the rough edges, not after we're finished, but exactly as we are, unfinished and resilient enough to keep showing up. And as I said, they're called Food Without Faces poet, amazing animal rights-based poet on Instagram and stuff, so absolutely check her out.
Absolutely check her out.
Absolutely. And yeah, finally, most of all, do something. Here's just a bunch of different examples of actions that you could take to enhance your positive impact for animals, aside from just being vegan, so I'll just pick a few. You could become a member of a political party and help shape decision-making in a pro-animal direction. You could write to your MP. You could take an autonomous action to prevent harm to animals, always within the confines of the law, obviously, or not. Obviously, join your local grassroots group. Start your own grassroots group if you don't have one in your area. Of course, like We the Free, Anonymous to the Voiceless, Hunt Saboteurs, you can join a local chapter. And also set up a monthly donation to, any organisation of your choice. I think that's such an underrated action. Like literally the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you could be saving hundreds more animals. Funding is so important and so underrated. So if you do have the price of a cup of coffee or whatever to give away once a month, do set that up with whoever you think is being the most effective, whoever's work that you enjoy. Or you think is the most effective. But if you're not sure, see animal charity evaluators, because they've actually done the maths on this kind of thing. Okay. Almost done. Research shows that it takes 3.5% of a population taking sustained non-violent action to drive major change. 3.5% of the UK population is 2.3 million people. But recent estimates place the number of vegans in the UK at 2.5 million people. So this might be a little bit oversimplified, but it could also be true. We might already have the numbers that we need. We just need to get active and mobilise. And lastly, I always just like to end on a little quote. So I've chosen to end today's with Margaret Mead's quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you.